Hello. One of the questions I often get asked is tutoring actually able to cover a full-time income? And the answer is yes, I've done it. However, it does take hard work. It takes commitment. And nothing in life is guaranteed. But yes, it can be done. But but the other thing we need to ask yourself is not just can it, but what do you regard as a full-time income? Because for example, if in your previous job you had, I don't know, a corporate six-figure income plus bonuses, etc., 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 it's going to take you a very long time for tutoring to build up, if ever, to achieve that, especially if you're just planning on the business being just you. However, if you're looking more long term and you're thinking about taking on other tutors and growing this substantially, and again, it's something that's going to take a lot of time, but it yes, it can be done. Something else I think that needs to be considered is what it is that you want to be tutoring, and is there a demand for that? So, for example, when I started, I decided that my comfort zone was children in primary school, and I most of my knowledge was specifically around how we learn and supporting neurodiverse children. So I was going to tutor neurodiverse primary school age children. And because the home we were living in at the time was open plan downstairs, it would have meant that every time I wanted to do a lesson, my kids who were teenagers at the time would have been banished off to their bedroom. So I decided that actually, rather than do that, I would travel to the home of the child I was tutoring. And the first lesson I ever did, I I had the details from the parent. I knew the village because when I was at school, we used to do what they called the cross country through that village. Was it cross? And she'd literally said, "Go to the crossroads at the end of the, and then turn left and go to the end of the lane, and there's a cottage." And so I drove there, and this is nearly 14 years ago now, 14 years next month, and drove to the end of the lane. And there was this huge big house there, kind of big wrought iron gates, etc. And I drove through. Well, this is not how I define a cottage, but I'll go with it. And this lady came marching out the house, and she was clearly not impressed to see me. And I kind of introduced myself and said, "Hi, I'm Dawn. I'm the tutor. I'm here to see your daughter." And she put me in my place and explained that they did not live there, and kind of sent me off on my way. And as I pulled out the drive, I was kind of I don't know if I really want to do this. And I was already kind of like a bag of nerves, and now I'm just trying to hold back these tears. But as I pulled out the drive, tucked away behind some trees on the left-hand side, there was this quaint little cottage which I hadn't seen as I'd been driving up. So, okay, you can do this. So I stopped the car and grabbed my bags from out the boot, put a smile on my face, walked up the drive and knocked. And as they say, the rest is history. But I was lucky because that family then it turned out were friends with another family that were looking for a tutor, and it just kind of started to snowball from there. So within my goal had been that within 6 months, no, sorry, my goal was that if I could earn, try again. My goal was if I could get 10 students, what I was earning with those 10 students would cover the wage of the income I was on at the time, and I could quit my other job. So um, I hoped to do that within 6 months, but actually it happened sooner. And so I think I actually left the job when I had about nine. Um, I just bit the bullet and went for it. And then within 18 months, I had more work than I could cope by myself. But so I started finding other tutors that could work with me. Um, I the first time I went about that, so I went about it completely wrongly. And for now, I'll leave that conversation for another time. But I learned a lot. I learned an awful lot during those early days. But make sure, I think because I was working with maths and English for primary school age children, um, in their own home, there was a demand, so I was lucky. And then probably a year or two into tutoring, a friend of my ex-husband kind of like said that her daughter was looking for a maths tutor to get her through her GCSEs. would I be able to help? And I kind of got back to them and said it's been a long, long time since I've done my maths, but I'm more than happy to try. And if at any stage you're not happy, please do let me know. I say, okay, that's fine. And every week I'd kind of like turn up, kind of think this might be my last, this might be my last. But I was spending 4 or 5 hours every week making sure that I knew exactly what was needed for that lesson. Um, any questions at all, I would hopefully have the knowledge, which I would have learned in that week, to be able to kind of answer her questions. And I worked so hard. But again, I struck gold because she did pass. And then the daughter was friends with the lollipop lady's daughter, and the mums were also friends. And when you're acquainted with the lollipop lady, they talk to absolutely everyone. And so from that moment on, the business just completely exploded. And the reputation kind of like grew from strength to strength. But I think as well, sorry, I've gone off on a tangent there, but something else you need to think about is uh, how does your hourly wage compare to your weekly wage? Is it that you're kind of like on a really good hourly wage, but you're spending hours commuting to work each day? So that's actually bringing down when you compare the number of hours you're out the house to the number to what you're actually earning. Is it that actually I'm not necessarily looking for this high wage that I had last time? What I'm looking for is a better life but work balance, and maybe tutoring will help me achieve that. So there's other questions as well. Bills have to be paid. We all have bills. We all have kind of like, without exception, there's expenses created in life. But if tutoring can pay you well if you're willing to put in the hours, I think it's the same with anything. If you're expecting it to take over from your full-time wages, you're going to have to expect to put in full-time hours initially, maybe more, especially as you kind of try and push out your reputation and word of mouth that you're out there, because you could be the best tutor in the world, but if you don't tell people about it, no one else is ever going to know about you, and it's just never going to kind of like take off. And that was something else another major flaw I made when I started. But I mean, now we've been going 14 years next month, so I should have told you a bit about myself at the beginning. I started the business 14 years ago, so in 2012. Originally, my goal was I was just coming out through the end of a divorce, and I kind of like said to myself that just because I was single, it shouldn't mean that my kids have to miss out on holidays. And so someone suggested that I had a go at tutoring, and at first I really wasn't keen on the idea, but she kind of went on and on about how my background and stuff. I'm not a qualified teacher, but I'd got experience and I'd got my degree in kind of like education, and I'd had done numerous courses in kind of like how we learn and stuff. And she go, oh, I really think you'd love it. So in the end, I just go, okay, I'll have a go. And actually, I really enjoyed it. But the goal at the time was to just provide my kids with a summer holiday each year. And tutoring has gone above and beyond that. Last year, it took me to the Caribbean on a marketeers cruise. It's taken me all over the place. And it's also given me, my son now lives, well, my son and my daughter now both live abroad. And so a couple of years ago, it gave me financed or gave me the income so that I could go and visit him in Bali. And go and visit my youngest daughter who lives in Germany, and but travel first class and stuff like that. So yes, tutoring can provide a really good income, but it doesn't happen overnight. It does take hard work. It's something you have to be really committed to. And like I say, if you want a full-time wage from it, you have to be willing to put in a full-time hours. And you also have to understand that although more and more children are becoming homeschooled, and so is more demand during the working day, most children are still at school. So most of the hours that you're actually tutoring are going to have to be on an evening and weekend. And so you are going to have to jeopardize potentially a lot of your own kind of like social hours, if you like. So if you've got a husband or partner coming in on an evening, or your kids are coming home from school and you're just walking out the door as they're walking in, the time you're going to spend with them is going to be greatly reduced. And that was one of the reasons I started to take on other tutors, because I realized that when my lad turned 18, he took a one-way ticket to Australia. And I kind of thought, blow, he's growing up. My oldest daughter, Clara, had already left home, and Angel's only 2 years younger than Jamie, so you kind of think it's only going to be there's a couple of years and she's going to be leaving home as well. And so I committed then to kind of like find other people to work with me to so that I could be home more and they could do some other work. Um and yeah, but it did help initially, but it also meant that the bigger the company got, the bigger our reputation got. And so it also meant I couldn't reduce my working hours because we just had so many people looking for the support that we were offering. But that's the story for another day anyway. So you do need to ask yourself, how many hours are you willing to commit to tutoring? And then you also need to ask, what's your hourly rate going to be? Some people will say, oh, you can earn thousands and work anywhere in the world. And I wouldn't necessarily believe all that hype. There are some people who are always going to regard you as being too cheap, and there are going to be others who regard you as being too expensive. I had a message just the other day from someone going saying, "You are the most expensive rate I have seen ever," and then there are about six exclamation marks. And okay, well, I don't know what to do with that, so I just deleted it because clearly we weren't the tutors for her. A few years ago, I'd gone like, sorry, 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 and offered her a cheaper rate. But as it is, all the tutors which are working with me, there's about 12 at the moment, are working at their full capacity. I'm working at my full capacity. So it doesn't make sense to offer people discounts when the business is already overstretched. So think about your hourly rate, think about your experience, your qualifications, and everything else, because you can't just charge anything. There is a cap. But having said that, if you can justify what you charge, it's far easier to do so. Um, and the other thing you're going to need to think about is different age groups expect to pay more. So, for example, a parent of an A-level student will often accept that they're going to be paying more than a primary school student. And although having said that, I've always charged the same regardless. I kind of said, look, this is our hourly rate. It doesn't matter whether your child's primary school or secondary school. This is what we charge. This is our hourly rate. Because otherwise, it also starts to get complicated if you've got, say, a couple of siblings and one's this age and one's this age, or they've got a primary school child and that you're charging them this, and they recommend you to someone else who has an A-level student or a GCS student, and you give them your pricing and stuff, and they go, well, my neighbour told me you're only charging them whatever, and it just gets complicated. So I must admit, we just have a fixed hourly rate, regardless of the age of the child. And the other thing is, are you going to be working? Are you going to start from scratch, which is what I did? I kind of went, okay, well, this is my profile, this is me, this is what I think parents are going to expect. And I built it from there. I've no business background apart from I'd been childminding for a couple of years prior. So my business, and during school holidays, I used to go into my dad's office and help him, but that was many, many years ago because he died while I was still very young. So my business experience was minimal. I'd never worked in a corporate job or anything. Most of it had been in schools and stuff. So um, are you going to just kind of throw yourself in at the deep end and go, okay, let's see where this takes me? You'll make mistakes along the way, but you'll grow from them and you'll lose money as a consequence, but then you gain money again as a consequence. Or are you going to kind of go, okay, I'm I don't know what I'm going to do, how to do this. I'm going to find myself a coach that can talk me through. I'm going to do this as a franchise and buy into someone else's systems and resources and stuff so that I don't have to figure it all out myself, which will cost you more as an initial outlay, but you'll probably get the money back in a whole lot quicker because you're not making these financial mistakes. But one of the things I would suggest is one of your key goals needs to be to build trust with parents, because the more you become a part of the family, the more you can build that relationship, the better it will be to hold on, the easier it will be to hold on to that family, because it's a whole lot easier to maintain families than it is to keep trying to find new ones. So if you can build that family's trust, and it's easy, sometimes it's just finding the time to talk to them. It's like I spoke to a mum, this is going back several years, and she was kind of saying how her daughter was doing her 11 plus. When she would go to the tutor's house, the tutor would she'd drop her daughter off, the tutor would open the daughter would go in, and then at the end, the daughter would let herself out. She never actually met the tutor apart from when they first set up the tutoring. It was just reliant on the daughter kind of like the mum going, well, what did you do today? And the daughter telling her. Whereas if you can find the time to chat to the parents and say, hey, look, this is what we've been doing today. This is what we found easy. This is what we found hard. This is what we're going to be focusing on next time. If you've got any requests or any input you want to give us, and just talk to them. And if you know that there's been someone's birthday in the family or something like that, just kind of find the time to kind of go, hey, hope you had a good birthday at the weekend. What did you get up to? Sort of thing. And just become friends. I was listening to Mike Mikharovich, toilet paper entrepreneur, yesterday, and he was kind of like saying, treat every customer like they're your best friend, because you want to build that rapport, you want to build that trust, you want to be integral to their child's education, so that if times are hard, you're not the first thing that they kind of like go, can't afford to keep this up, let's get rid of them. They can like think about it seriously. Or if one of their friends goes, oh, we've got a new tutor and they're fantastic, and they're kind of go, we've got a tutor but they're mediocre, it might be worth swapping. Money's not the thing, it's the quality of the care or support that we receive. So you want to, by talking, it doesn't cost you anything, but it's one of the strongest things you can do to actually help you to build a rapport. A lot of tutors don't manage to replace their income, and it's not their fault. It kind of like puts on you this feeling of kind of like guilt and self-doubt. But the thing is, it's not your fault at all. It's generally a lack of systems and undervaluing yourself. When I first started, I had found myself temporarily, which I really didn't enjoy, which kind of like gave me the incentive to really go all in with the tutoring. But I was only about £7 or £8 an hour. So this is kind of going back 15 years when minimum wage was much, much lower. And I when I went to put my first profile online, I was charging £10 an hour. And that was for me to travel from my house to your house, do an hour's tutoring, and travel home again. And in my mind, I thought I am really taking the mick here, because that is just asking parents far too much. And everyone was kind of saying to me, Dawn, you don't charge enough. And I was like, yeah, but before I was only on kind of like about £8 an hour. So to ask someone to pay me £10 an hour, this is just kind of like people won't be able to afford it. And it I was undermining my ability. And I think as well at the time, what I didn't realize was by making myself so much cheaper than everyone else, I wasn't doing myself a favor. I wasn't doing the parents a favor. What I was doing was portraying myself as being of low value and of little experience, little whatever, because parents wouldn't they'd see the price and kind of think £10. They'd probably presume it was an A level, not being detrimental to A level students or something, but just someone who is trying to support themselves through university or A levels or something, rather than someone that got the experience and the knowledge and the systems and everything else. So don't ever undermine yourself. Like I say, there is a cap on what you can charge, but please don't price yourself too low either, and set yourself boundaries. This is something that I still struggle with, and I have to be firmer. But it's kind of I wrote a blog about it the other day, and the fact that you get a message at 10 o'clock at night from a parent, you kind of think, I don't want to just ignore you, because that seems rude. And by tomorrow morning, my memory is like a sieve, I could have forgotten. So at 10 o'clock at night, you're answering messages to parents, and they've probably just kind of gone to bed and thought, oh, I didn't message them, I need to message them now. And you're sat there thinking, I don't want to be messaging someone at 10 o'clock at night about work. So set boundaries. Set yourself boundaries about what hours you're actually available, how many lessons you're willing to do, and be firm with that. Don't kind of like let it grow and grow and grow, because otherwise each time a parent rings and kind of says, look, this is a situation, my child is really struggling, and you'll become like going, say yes, say yes, say yes. And you know you should be going to say no, say no, say no, but you don't want to think of a child struggling, and so you kind of go, okay, I can do this, I'll squeeze you in, I can be at yours for or we can start or whatever. So do set yourself boundaries and be firm with them. And create a marketing plan. You need to know how it is that you're going to tell people that you have this amazing tutoring business, because like I said previously, you could have the very best tutoring business, you could offer the very, very best support, but if people don't know about it, it's never going to grow. And if you rely predominantly on word of mouth, it will help you get your business so far, but it's never going to get it to the full extent of what it could be, because the thing is, it's it's very often a case of, especially if you when you're working with primary school children, parents all stand in the playground and they chat and word spreads. But with secondary school children, parents are less inclined to kind of get to know the parents of other parents. And it also gets to the stage that you're supporting their child with their GCSEs, and then their child finishes the GCSEs, and no, you're no longer part of their life because it's come to a natural end. And so when 2 or 3 years later, a friend of theirs kind of like says, oh, little whoever's really struggling with their maths, because it's been 2 or 3 years now since you stopped working with their child, they're going to be less inclined to remember and kind of go, you need to ask. I mean, some parents do. There's one lady, the lollipop lady, she still recommends me now on Facebook. I mean, she's probably been my biggest cheerleader for I don't know how many years. So I will always be grateful to the lollipop lady. Um, and the other thing is, if you don't set yourself boundaries and you are relying on word of mouth, the business will become like so up and down, and you'll just get so bogged down from it that you'll just burn out. And what could have been something truly amazing will just become this kind of like this monster in your life, that you've created this beast, and it's the worst and worst beast you can never get rid of, because you don't have a boss that you can turn to for help. You are your boss, but you're just kind of like it just it just becomes all consuming and it just takes over. And trust me, I've been there, and that's one of the reasons why I had to tighten up my systems. And this is one of the reasons that I took on as many tutors as I have, just so that as the business grows, it's not all on my shoulders. I do have other people now working with me that I can kind of go, okay, this bit's not my problem, that's yours to solve. So um and the other thing is, are you looking to become a tutor because you're looking just to earn a bit of extra money, and you're looking for something that's flexible and low pressure? You enjoy your job, but you want something that's going to kind of like stimulate your brain a bit more, or something that's a bit more creative, or think, in which case you're probably actually looking for a side income rather than a natural career, where you need to think about your planning and your systems and long-term thinking, and you need to really go all in on it. So both are valid. And it could be that you just get a job working for a tutoring company, like I've got tutors working with me, and it is just something that you pop out a couple of hours a week, you prepare your lessons, you pop out a couple of hours a week, and you come back, and then you move on. And next week, it's you don't give it a second thought. It's just something I enjoy a couple of hours a week. Or do you want this to become kind of like something? Is this going to become your legacy? Is this going to be something that outlives you? Something that you can kind of like go, I built that. We helped hundreds of children over the last few years, and we have made an impact on so many lives. And it's because I created those systems. It's because we work like that. It's because I did this. It's because I did that. And I made a difference. And I'm really, really proud of myself for doing it. So there's no right or wrong answer. And it very often depends whereabouts in life you are at the moment. If you've got a lot of young children or teenagers doing exams or something, and you don't want the pressure of kind of like creating something huge, sideline is perfect. But if you're kind of like thinking, actually, I'm at a stage in life where I need something different, maybe this could be the perfect way of doing it. Both are great options. It just depends on what you're actually looking for. And something else that people worry about is how long it's actually going to take to replace a full-time income. And to be honest, it's rarely in sorry, get my words out, it's rarely instant. It can take 6 months, it can take longer, depending on what that income is that you're trying to replace, like say how many hours you're willing to put into it, etc. But what I did, like I say, was when I first started, I set myself a deadline. I said, okay, 10 students and I can leave the job that I'm in. And I would work there during the day, and then on an evening and weekend, I would prepare my lessons for the week. And or I'd pop home during my lunch break from the job I was doing and prepare them. And then it just slowly grew. It's I would say it was hard work, but it wasn't, because I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the creativity. I was in a job where I wasn't really being that mentally stimulated. Previously, I've been childminding where you were constantly on your toes, you were constantly having to think, you were constantly being creative. And I've had multiple jobs over the years, MBQSS, so teaching assistant. I worked in a hostel for children with profound autism. I've had all sorts of different kind of like jobs in education, but I just found myself in a job where I was just bored. And so the kind of like the creativity of this tutoring and having to actually think about things and learn things, it was just kind of, I love this. And it doesn't seem like a chore. It was tiring, but I enjoyed every single minute of it. So to be honest, that would probably be what I would suggest, is that you can like hang on to what you've got, maybe just ease yourself out slowly, but set yourself a target and kind of say, okay, once I've achieved this, that's the moment I can go all in, because then you know you've got the finances behind you to rely on. Um, and I think I've mentioned this before, but you don't have to do it all alone. There are so many different options out there. You can find yourself a mentor or a coach. I've always been either in mentoring programs or had one-to-one coaching sessions. There's membership groups you can join. You can buy into a franchise. Like I say, it's a much bigger layout up front, but they have all the systems and things in place. So you're not having to try and start and redesign the wheel yourself. It's there. You're shortening that learning curve. So instead of making all the mistakes, someone else has made those for you. And then they're kind of like going, okay, well, we're not going to do those mistakes. This is what we're going to do. We're just going to do the stuff which is going to guide you to where you need to be. So can tutoring actually replace a full-time income? And yes, it can, but it works best when it's treated as a business and not as a hobby. And the people who do succeed at it are consistent, they're reflective, they're supported, and they work hard. Like I say, this is a business, this is a full-time commitment. It's not just something on the sidelines, unless that's the route you decide to go down. But I hope this has been helpful. This At the moment, I'm rebuilding the franchise. I set about doing it just before lockdown, and then I'm not the most confident person in the world, and I have found myself a million excuses as to why it couldn't go ahead, mainly my confidence. But I'm now setting it back up to hopefully be ready to go at the end of the year. But I'm documenting my journey as I go, and if you'd like to follow that journey, um, I will put the link below. But there is no right or wrong way to do this. What you have to do is find what is right for you and go with that. I hope this has been helpful, and good luck. I wish you all the best.